So Cobra have kicked off 2026 with a new product line in their irons. It's called the King. There's two irons. You've got King and King Max. Today I'm joined with Cobra ambassador Ryan Craig, who's going to talk me through the product. I'm going to hit some shots. I'm going to get a feel for what the product does, who it's aimed at. I've got this in my shaft, in my regular shaft that I play in my irons at the moment, which is a KBS dollar taper 120.
Yep.
It's set to my spec, as will the other iron be in a moment. Let's get straight into it. Who is it aimed at?
So the King iron, whether it's the King or the Max, is designed to be for somebody who's in need of a bit more forgiveness. The two models will differentiate depending on, if you're like a lot of other models in brands, you'll have a slightly higher launching model for somebody who maybe is in need of that extra bit of height. But most importantly, it's an iron that's cram-packed with forgiveness. So, on the higher end of the handicap scale, it's going to give you distance, it's going to give you forgiveness. Not as much playability or workability as some other irons around, but in terms of the model it's after, it is a forgiveness model and distant iron.
Okay, and when you're talking forgiveness for new golfers watching, you're really talking about where you're hitting it on the face.
Where you're striking on the face. Not everybody's a perfect. The pros that we're watching on TV, we're not just out the middle every single time. Everybody has a tendency in their golf swing usually, whether they're heel biased, toe biased. So it's for the player that's not striking it out the middle every single time, that wants to get a similar performance from each strike they're hitting.
Okay, perfect. I mean, so for me, just to add a bit of context, I'm a low single figure handicapper. You're saying it wouldn't necessarily be aimed at me. I mean, straight away, I know it's not aimed at me. It's bigger head. But what I would say is, from a looks perspective, this has got to be one of the best looking game improvement irons if you're going to pigeonhole it as a game improvement iron. And straight away on the rack, I feel like any golfer would walk into a shop and instantly be drawn into the look and the appeal of that.
So I mean, it's obviously got a very sleek look to it. There's a little bit going on. I wouldn't say it's too flashy or in your face. It's quite subtle in terms of what they've done. Obviously, you've got the different types of material in the back there as well. As I say, lots of technology involved with it. They've integrated their 3D printed sort of side of things that they've been working on. So yeah, the mesh at the back. So
and what's that for?
So it's to save a little bit of weight, so they can distribute it, as I say, in that the lower end of the club, the toe, the heel, just so the missed strikes can be performing a little bit better. As I say, it's a lightweight mesh, so it's not making a humongous weight difference in the club, but as I say, it just lets them shift the weight in other areas.
Okay. You can see a lot going on with the sole. It's a bigger sole, but you can see there's a little bit of, what would you say, wear at the front where it's kind of shaped?
A little bit of, essentially they've added a little bit of playable bounce to the club. Okay. So this is something that whether you're you're steep onto the ball or you're quite shallow, having that little bit of sort of camber there, it's going to help with turf interaction overall. So it's not designed specifically for somebody who's more aggressive with their attack angle on top of the ball. So whether you're shallow divots or quite steep, it's just going to help the club glide along the turf and just make hitting the ball a little bit easier. Okay,
so let's get straight into it. I'm going to hit some shots. As we've already said, I'm not necessarily going to be putting these golf clubs myself, but I would caveat that with I'm slightly slower than your really fast players. I'm quite accustomed to finding every part of the face, so we're going to be able to test the forgiveness of this, and that's hopefully going to help the viewers at home.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So you've just got the standard King iron right now, yeah?
Yep. So straight away, I would say that was a pretty terrible strike, but looking up,
it was a touch low in face, but good trajectory, good distance. We're landing it at an angle that would stop on that green, so it's numbers that you'd be more than happy with out on the course.
Okay, good.
But obviously, if strike didn't feel great, that's where we're getting that forgiveness out of the club, just from having that weight distributed in a good place. That sounded flush.
That felt flush, and I'm assuming, I can't see the numbers myself, but I'm assuming I'd walk up the fairway and it would be in a fairly similar position to the last one.
Absolutely.
And that's what we want to see.
We've got 3 yards of difference between what we've classed as a perfect strike and a not so great strike. Obviously, you know, trajectory-wise, we've maybe lost a few feet in height from the slightly poorer strike, but we're still, as I say, mentioned earlier, we're still landing it at the degree that we're going to be able to have control. You know, we're going into a pin. We don't. What you see with a lot of game improvement irons over the past is that it's purely just focused on distance, whereas gradually we're getting closer and closer to irons that are still going to give you the same flight as what you might see in an MB, a CB, you know, a more player's iron.
Sure.
But you're just gaining that extra bit of distance. So you're getting control with distance, which, you know, is a perfect combination for somebody who's maybe in need of that forgiveness in a club.
Okay, and that's down to the CG location because these are quite strong lofted, right?
So yeah, so in terms of degree, we are looking quite strong. So the standard King head is a 27.5 degree 7 iron. So as I say, compared to traditional irons, it's quite strong. And then with the max, it just goes up 2 degrees. You add a little bit of offset into the club. As I say, it's more for somebody who's looking for a higher launch variant, but this itself is 27.5 degrees. So
okay.
Yes, it's a strong iron, but once again, you're not losing the traditional flight of a 7 iron. You know,
no,
back in your 34 degree lofted 7 irons, you're still going to get that same flight, that same landing angle. And you're just going to gain distance with something like this.
What am I looking at land angle there?
So the last two, they've averaged 45.4 on them as an average,
pretty
but
steady,
you're looking at 44 and 47.
Okay, cool. Okay, tad heavy, but again, it's almost like you can hit this club anywhere on the face. It's going to give you the same
exactly.
results.
That's, you know, it's jam packed with that forgiveness. As mentioned, you know, as well as that, it's the sound. I think that's a big factor. Is that a lot of game improvement irons, players have been complaining about how they've felt a little bit clickier, how they've sounded a little bit clickier. That's something that, you know, what they've done with that mesh at the back is just dampen the sounds, dampen the feel a little bit. So you're almost getting the feel of a player's style iron, but with the added bonus of the forgiveness from this game improvement sort of style. Nice.
Just leaked one out there. Okay, cool. Right, shall we have a go with
the max? Absolutely.
Okay, so moving on to the max. So in a lot of ranges now, we'd be kind of accustomed to call this a high launch. Is that the similar?
Yes, I would. In terms of the models you've got in the King iron, this would be more of a higher launching, more draw biased with that added bit of offset into the club. So it's for,
and you can see that with the offset.
Yes, and that's where, as I say, you know, in terms of the max, it is the maximum forgiveness of the range. So it's certainly something that is designed to be the most forgiving, the higher of the launching, just from that weakness in the lofting comparison. So for maybe some even slower, if you've got a bit more speed, that's where the standard King will be more beneficial to you. But the King Max will be just for that slightly slower speed, wanting a bit more height, wanting even more forgiveness. If you're somebody that maybe pushes that ball out a little bit to the right, this is just going to help with that added offset.
Sure. So if senior golfers, women, juniors are watching this and thinking, I'm looking for a new set of irons, this could be an option.
Definitely. I mean, in terms of, you know, in comparison to the King, this would definitely be the more suited option for somebody, you know, a little bit slower, wanting as much forgiveness as possible, but just to really try and straighten up that shot and just give you a little bit more height, a little bit more control, because as you know, the less speed you have, the less chance you have of getting that ball up and spinning. So if we can add just a little bit of loft onto it, it's just going to help land a bit steeper, land with more control.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, let's jump into it.
I mean, I don't think I'm going to find an easier golf club to hit.
No, I mean, couldn't hit that more central.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people, I know that the comments are going to be, well, you probably swing it too fast when you've just said a slow swing speed, so it's not really.
It's not going to be, you know, obviously, if we're to set this up for that maybe more senior golfer, we'd probably be moving into graphite, you know, a softer flex just to help out with that. You know, it coincides with trying to make the club as easy to hit as possible. But even for somebody with a bit more speed that is looking for forgiveness, it's not to say that this iron won't be able to do that. You know, you get a lot of golfers that are maybe new to the game that have a lot of speed.
Sure, I was going to say
don't really have the right, you know, they compress the ball in ways that you maybe shouldn't. So it's still a club that is just packed with forgiveness, that it's not just down to one speed of golfer, one type of golfer. You know, the forgiveness is going to benefit many different lines of golfers, whether you're just a little bit slow with your speed or you're faster but you're a bit more uncontrollable with that strike. So there's a range of golfers that it will suit towards. It's just, you know, if we're talking about model to model, this probably isn't as suited to you as the King, rather than, you know, being the King Max. As I say, a little bit weaker in loft. It's going to get a bit more spin, a bit more height, you'd imagine, for someone like yourself. But if you were to choose between the two models, I'd probably say the King's going to suit you better. Okay,
that's good to know. And that's a shot I wouldn't really want to be seeing, and I guess that's coming from
and
that.
that's that little bit of offset in there, which, you know, for someone like yourself, you're probably not visually. The offset might be a touch more off-putting as well. You know, it's something that you'd see back in the day. A more traditional iron would have this sort of type of offset. So, you know, it's not going to be as suited to a player of, you know, your ability, let's say, but it's what you'd expect to see at the same time. So it's good to see that it's doing exactly what we would almost expect it
should
to.
do. Same again, but I would say, to me, it felt a little bit on the toe side. Might be wrong, but you wouldn't really, I think, because the feel is so consistent wherever you hit it, it's almost a little bit harder to ascertain where I hit it out the face.
Yeah, I mean, as you say,
it's good feel.
The consistency side of things, you know, we've got 3 shots there. Ball speed is, you know, within 1 mile an hour each time, dependent, you know, even with the strike sort of varying ever so slightly between the heel, the centre. Spin is, you know, once again, 5.5, 5.2, 5.3. Height is all within a couple of yards. Distance-wise, once again, you know, whether or not we felt like we've absolutely nailed it or not, we've got a difference of 4 yards between our best and our worst strike. Okay. So the consistency's in there, and once again, you know, we're getting that height, we're getting that landing angle, all the numbers that you'd expect to see out of a forgiving iron that's going to give you everything you're after. It's doing that. But obviously for this, we're maybe losing that a little bit out to the left. You know, our rotation is a bit earlier on, so the offset's just going to throw that out a touch. So as I say, for you, King would be a little bit more beneficial, but, you know, both models doing exactly what you'd want them to. You know, forgiveness is just jam-packed in this. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, thanks for that, Ryan. Really good insight into the King irons. I think 2 brilliant offerings from Cobra for those beginner golfers through to game improvers, just anybody looking for that extra bit of forgiveness, coming in at a very affordable price as well. So when you look at the competitors out there, these are definitely going to be the ones that you've got to put in the mix if you're getting custom fit this season. Remember, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.